And we're live. Welcome to all our viewers. Reminder, you can contact the show through the Q&A app. You can comment on the YouTube feed, and if you join us at Politics and Guns Podcast /live, you can get into the chat room there, and we will be following the chat online. Okay. I need to get my show notes up to the top here. We need to modify that open. We can't have, we talk about no interviews. What do you think?
I can just not say a sentence there, or if you want me to say something, I can say we'll have our catch-up section. Or have a rant from...
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plug Rob's rant.
How do you want me to title your rant, Rob?
Responsible activism.
Sounds good.
Or irresponsible activism, so if you like alliteration.
All right, are we ready to try this?
Sure, let's do it.
Let me get on the page, buddy. Please. Yeah.
Okay, let me know when we're ready, and I'll kick the intro off.
Let's do this thing.
Okay, starting in 5. Maybe not. Just a second. Now we're starting in 5.
An armed society is a polite society, and this is the Polite Society podcast, where we support and report on civilian self-defense.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, recorded live Saturday, May 10th, 2014. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rachel Malone, and on tonight's show, we'll have a rant from Rob on responsible activism.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll also talk about self-defense news.
I'm Rob Morris, and we have our weekly stories of defensive gun use.
So, climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 236 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome back. Well, we're starting our live recording, and we're live at ABN Army Surplus. Want to thank Gary here at ABN for allowing us to record here live on the air. And we're getting into our catch-up segment where we give personal news from each of the participants. And first up on my window of faces down here is John. What have you been doing what have you been doing lately, man?
Well, I consider myself kind of a slacker after I've seen what Rob and Rachel have been up to, so I really can't say I have much real news to add. I've just worked the last few days and just hung around doing nothing really important since our last podcast. So, I'm a slacker.
John, how are you moving? Is it getting better every day?
It's getting better.
There you go.
It hurts a little, but it's getting better. I go through the reevaluation next week.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, next up I see on my lineup of faces is Rachel. What have you been up to? I know you've been to a caddy walk, right?
Yes, that's right. In fact, I just walked in the door. I got back from a caddy walk and came basically straight to my computer for this podcast. It was a great day. It was pretty hot outside, but I'd totally rather hot than cold, so that was fine by me. For those who don't know, caddy stands for Come and Take It. It's an open carry group in Texas. So we had kind of a new route today. We marched from the Capitol all the way to Town Lake and then back. And today we actually engaged with several very interested individuals who just loved what we were doing. They were very excited about it, had seen it before, but very open to it and thought it was great. And there were several of us ladies on the walk, and we got to talk and put our heads together and make some cool plans for our upcoming Gunpowder and Lace Walk. It's going to be the first Caddy Austin Ladies Open Carry March, and we've decided that only the ladies will be allowed to open carry. So the guys can come along, they can carry flags, but we're going to be the ones with guns. So you can stay tuned for that. That's coming up on July 12th.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, was it an open carry limp or an open carry walk?
Well, okay, I have to admit, I did half of it, then I got a ride back, because it was a 2-mile walk, and wasn't quite sure I wanted to do the whole thing. So at the end, it was kind of a limp, and I decided to just bail out so as not to re-injure.
There you go. I
Yeah.
mean, how much of a limp before they won't give you the mags?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to play it easy. I hate sitting still. I'd rather just go out and do something. I tell you what, the thought of for those who don't know, I have a friend who promised me mags, some P-mags, if I don't re-injure my ankle. So that is the only thing that's keeping me from going and like working out really hard and running and doing this kind of thing. So.
Yeah, kids.
Yeah. Oh, Rob, you're next on my row of faces at the bottom of my screen. What have you been up to, man?
Hey, Paul, I'm good. On Thursday, I spoke at the Los Angeles West Side NRA Members Council. Most states don't have members councils, but California is so large, and the state affiliate organization for the NRA is so fragmented that there are usually in large counties there are a couple NRA members councils. The one on the west side of LA, it's what was it? Culver City? I'm going to get that wrong. I don't want to say for sure. But that chapter's full of activists. I swear, if somebody's having, if there's a public gathering that's bigger than a yard sale on somebody's driveway, they're there with a table. I was really impressed and inspired. But if you've ever seen pictures in the news of LA traffic, it stinks. I took the train up and back and got home after midnight. John, I have some news on our Mosin Nagant rifle. The new Mojo sights came in, and maybe I can get them fitted tomorrow, unless Mother's Day rears its head and keeps me from doing that.
Well, I'd love to hear how the Mojo site does work, though.
Sure. Okay, I'll let you know.
So Rob, on that meeting, I'm just curious. How did you get to speak to them? Did you call up and ask, or?
No. Okay. I've got this podcast. I write for a couple of online magazines, and somehow they found me. And having John a blog with 700 or 800 posts on it finally was worth something. It got me a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich after the meeting, I guess.
That's awesome. Very,
Hey, it's
very
bacon.
good.
Bacon. It was worth it because of the bacon. There you go. Yes, it was.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for doing that and speaking to them. I'm sure it was great. Sorry I missed it.
Yeah. Do you have any audio of your talk?
No, they didn't record it.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of Q. I talked about the changing gun culture. You know, the stuff that we do here every week, gun culture 1.0 to 2.0. These guys have to struggle to get a. Now, this is inside baseball, because of the opinion of the local NRA state directors. They won't even give them their own Facebook page. Well, how do you find out what's going on? So they have to set up their own email lists behind the scenes. It's hard for the NRA to get in this century. So.
Are a lot of these people also Cal Guns Foundation members?
Oh, shoot. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, see here. Next down on my list of faces down here is Gary. Gary, of course, joining us from ABN Army Surplus. Since last weekend, last time you were on the show, man, what have you been up to?
Actually, I took off to Chicago for the entire week, worked with one of the suppliers who has been working with the military, the National Tactical Officers Association, and a couple of military units designing and building military equipment for the soldier in the field. So I spent some time with their video folks, shooting some video on the product, and had a chance to take a look at some of the new products that are coming down the line. And got a chance to put some input. You know, guys in the field that have been in the field for 30 or 40 years, and they knew me and took some of my expert advice to heart, I guess, on how things might get changed. I spent some time talking with their engineer and take a look at how you might modify a few of the field packs and that kind of thing that military and police officers use on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting week. Good time.
Very, very cool. Well, I guess that kind of leaves me. I've been driving, and hopefully you that listen as a podcast will notice a lot better audio quality. Picked up today a spaghetti string of mixer and all kinds of cables, and we're recording this with real microphones and just kind of exploring doing that for the first time, and so not a whole lot. I leave out Tuesday, or I get home Tuesday night. I leave out Monday, get home Tuesday, and then Wednesday I leave for Mag 40 down in Arkansas. I'll be down there, and hopefully I'll be down there in enough time, early enough, I can join on the Wednesday podcast for once. But I'm not gonna be sure about that. So.
Well, that sounds like one heck of a training trip you're going to be taking down there.
Oh yeah. I've been looking forward to going down there since Chaz told me he was going to be doing it. Oh mercy! Almost a year ago, this thing has been in the planning stages. So the only thing that'll change on the show is hopefully I'll make the Wednesday night show. I don't know if I'll make next Saturday's show because we're going to be just wrapping up, quite literally, as we're supposed to be going live. We're going to be just wrapping up down there from the last day of, next to the last day of Mag 40. And from what I hear, it is so overwhelming that I don't know that I would be much entertainment if I were on the show. So,
Are you too old to do that program? I mean, did you check to see if they had an age limit? Just
I'm younger than the instructor.
I was just checking.
All right. No, I'm my physician gave me a clean bill of health. So
there you go.
And we're also joined by a listener. Matt drove up from Sioux City to join us, and want to bring him in. And now that we've got a microphone that can take him, what have you been up to since? Because you were on the show here a couple weeks ago, kind of almost on the show. What have you been up to, man?
Just doing a lot of reloading of 9mm. Did an IDPA shoot today. Brought my father along for the first time. He actually never shot a semi-auto before, so.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm the gun guy of the family, apparently. He just didn't realize you don't put the thumb behind the slide.
Oops.
Oops. How did he get the message?
Ouch.
Yeah, that'll take just about one time to fix.
Actually, he did it 14 times.
You're kidding.
Out.
Oh my goodness.
He only has a Ruger single 6.
Wow. Well, thanks for driving up and joining us again. The guy drove 90 miles just to come hang out with us. So
Awesome.
Nice.
You gonna feed him?
You were welcome.
he brought his own dinner.
Yeah.
Whoa!
He didn't bring me any. I mean, here I am putting him on the air, and he didn't bring me any. But anyway.
Well, I'm sure Gary could find you some old MREs.
Oh, hey, I got some new MREs, man.
There you go, Gary.
Top-notch, state-of-the-art stuff here. There you go.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this segment up. We're going to jump off to break, and when we come back, we'll do news right after this.
All right, can I go ahead?
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none, the Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
All right. I think what we're going to do, I'm recording off the mixer, and I just stopped the recording. We'll still do it in segments, but my main thing is I want the YouTube viewers to actually have to listen to the ads that pay for the show as well. So let's get ready for news.
Whoever tees up the rant, want to have them, they'll take us in and tee up the rant? Or mock it is a little more realistic.
Sure. Just a second here. I got to close out the audios that I've been... Okay, and so I've been noticing some background noise in my headsets. I don't know if it's making it over YouTube or not, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop all mics except mine in here. So if you want to say something, and I'll pod you back up. Actually, you know what? I just potted you back up. Say that again, because I think the other people, I think the other staff would like to hear that.
Just wondering what you guys think of Gun Culture 2.0 as compared to the rest of us who are just getting into the gun culture.
What do I think of it? It's about time.
I mean, if you're just getting in, you are Gun Culture 2.0.
It's wonderful that the broader society, as society moved from rural to urban, it's wonderful that they've taken firearms with them, and of course their concerns are different.
And I think we're going to get into that a little bit in your rant, aren't we?
Not so. No, not really. No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take your microphone back down, Matt. Whoever wants to bring us in, or do you guys want me to bring us in, or how do you want to do that?
I'll bring us in.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
In 5. Hi, and welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast. We're going to start out the news segment with a rant from Rob on responsible activism. And now here's Rob.
Dear radicals, I've been reading about you in the newspaper and online. I support liberty, and I know that it has many branches. That said, I'll condemn you if you do stupid things in public that undermine the progress of liberty. The supporters of liberty, it's our job to persuade the public. Your job, my job. You don't get to do stupid things in public and then tell the public they took your actions the wrong way. Using the right of self-defense as an example, you better know your message and how it's perceived before you, for example, open carry an AR while you're half naked in blackface and camouflage and march back and forth in front of a daycare center. That would be stupid, wouldn't it? Now, can you do such a thing? Is it legal? Will I tackle you to the ground and call you names? Yes, it's legal, but it's not smart, and sure, you can do it for a while. We absolutely have the right to do stupid and foolish things in public, but we can't demand that the public agree with and support us for doing it. People get to make up their own minds about what we've done. They're free to decide for themselves. Now, isn't that a radical thought for some of you? You have to compete for the hearts and minds of the public we're trying to persuade. You know, if you're only out for attention, then you're not out to win hearts and minds. The public is as it is. My neighbors think what they think. We don't get to argue with their perception and claim that we were misunderstood if we did something stupid and are widely condemned. That attitude of, well, you're all idiots and you don't understand my clever demonstration, that attitude is immature and self-righteous. Grown-ups ask questions before they make public statements. That way they know how their actions will be perceived. This is true in every public debate. Sure, people have the right to scream that abortionists are murderers, and then they pour red dye on themselves and on the sidewalk. But don't be surprised if the public turns them out. You can call out taxation as theft, theft of a gun-wielding government. And if you scream that and look like a nut, don't be surprised if the public doesn't listen, even if you're right. You can wear a white sheet and carry a gun and claim you're supporting the right of free expression. But there's a difference between persuasive debate and radical public demonstration. You have the right to be stupid and offensive. Welcome to the great United States. Said another way, you can destroy liberty by stupidly abusing it. So please, put on your grown-up pants and act like an adult. I don't blame the ill-informed and often uninterested public for their phone calls to the politicians after your public display. I don't blame the politicians for his weak spine and knee-jerk reaction to the public phone calls from his constituents. I blame you. Welcome to the grown-up world, Bubba and Babette. With great power comes great responsibility. You guys are responsible for how you're perceived, and heaven knows the news media wants lovers of liberty to look like a bunch of crazy fools. Quit offering them something to put on camera that makes you look bad. Fortunately, we can test public reaction before we act. We can also test political reaction before we act. We could, if we were smart, even call up the police so we can test police reaction before we act. Yes, this is hard work, and there's no one around to force a lazy radical to do it. I've had kids. I understand the urge to feel radical and righteous. But you don't get any credit from me for pleasing yourself in the public square. There's a name for that, and you're supposed to have learned self-control back when you were in junior high school. So hold on to your passions, but don't play with it in public. Take a minute to study the problem of public persuasion so you're effective in changing hearts and minds the way you intend, the way you want. The radical activist can alienate anyone he wants, but he is not the friend of liberty. That's the end of my rant.
Amen.
Rob, I love it. Thank you so much. So if I'm understanding you right, I really hear you distinguishing between, number one, the legal issue of what is our right, and number two, the moral issue of what is.
And I think we're losing her.
She jumped. Oh no! But
Your rant reminds me of an episode that happened up in Michigan a few years ago. They have open carry.
Her own personal moral reasons, but she still stands up for the legal right. So distinguishing between.
Rachel,
yes.
you dropped out there for a couple minutes. You want to take your response again from the top? I know that's hard.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I was just thanking you for what I'm hearing from you is you're distinguishing between our legal rights and the moral issue of what is good. So one example I had of that is a friend of mine who's one of the best and strongest supporters of the right to keep and bear arms. And she will go and fight for that right in the Capitol. But personally, I'm not sure she would ever take advantage of that because of personal religious reasons. So she's separated those two issues really well, and it confuses a lot of people. A lot of them say, she's a gun grabber. She's totally not. She's standing up for their rights more than they are. So what I hear you doing is you're not addressing activists' legal rights, and you're not wanting to legally restrict those rights, but you're striving for a well-regulated society, and that's accomplished through self-regulation and not through governmental regulation. So thank you, Rob. Appreciate that.
Well, I deeply admire the activists that control their passions they rein in their passions, and that self-control is actually attractive and wins people to their side.
Yes.
Yeah. Hard work.
I think where we're going to make the most good in our fight is when we hear, when each of us individually befriends other people and then lets them know that we own guns. I think that in the public arena, that's where we're going to do the most good, is where I know Gary. Gary owns guns. Gary's a normal guy. I know Matt. He owns guns. He's a normal guy. He's not a loon. That's where we're going to make our biggest benefit. And when we get these people like Rob are talking about that are, the people like the abortion people who go make the big scene in front of the abortion clinic and pour red dye all over themselves, you know what? I know one of those people, and you know what? That person's not a normal person.
We have to be attracted. Isn't that interesting? We first sell ourselves before we sell our ideas. Yeah. Gary, you deal with the public every day. I guess that's part of it, isn't it? Of being in sales.
There's no question. I think that when you look at how the people interact, we even have a situation here where we have a local group, active promoters of the Second Amendment, the right, but they're not always too good at the responsibility. They forget sometimes that, like, we're an open carry store. So my expectation is if somebody needs to pick up a holster, they're okay to bring their pistol in. Try it on. Try a couple different holsters. See what works for them and what doesn't. But when you come walking into my store 3 or 4 strong, all carrying AK-47s loaded and cocked over your shoulder.
Whoa!
Because you just want to be able to show on this particular Saturday that you are, taking advantage of your right. I actually ask them to leave the store. And I say it's not because I don't support your right, but with it does in fact come some responsibility.
Yeah.
And the responsibility is not to just throw stuff in people's faces and make them feel uncomfortable. That's not what the law was designed to do. Your right to be able to carry and own a weapon doesn't constitute an additional right to scare the hell out of some grandmother by having 4 or 5 of you walk in carrying AR-15s. It's a balancing act, and I understand that. But like you said, Ron, I think the biggest thing is that you have to sell yourself first instead of your idea. And when you try selling the idea first and they don't know you, all they see is 4 or 5 camo-dressed guys with beards and, just kind of looking a little disheveled. The impression that the public has, regardless of whether or not we like it, and we all have it, if a guy comes to talk to us in a suit and a tie, we have a tendency to think a little bit better of him than if he comes in camo boots, camo pants and combat boots and looks a little disheveled. That's a different first impression. And, you can't argue the Second Amendment right if the very first thing anybody sees about you and about your argument is that they're scared. That doesn't help your cause, because it's a lot harder to get to the backside of that than it was if you came in polite to begin with and didn't carry a weapon and wanted to talk about the Second Amendment rights, for example.
Gary, the next news item. I think you may want to comment on it right after John presents it.
Okay, why don't we go to it then? In our first news item, a Wisconsin police chief did the right thing at the right time. This story started when a Wisconsin citizen open carried at a park in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin.
Very good.
I tried.
Congratulations.
Someone took a picture of it and complained to the police chief. Then the local news station, New NBC outlet, filed a report that it is illegal to carry on public property. Police Chief David Bagan reviewed the city ordinance and reported that it violates the Wisconsin state preemption laws on firearms. I think the chief got it right on this one. In addition, in the state of Wisconsin, the Attorney General found a number of years ago that open carry was legal even when they still didn't have concealed carry. So
we had a similar situation, exactly what you're talking about here, where that organization went to the park picnic. You may remember that hit the news about a year or so ago. And again, somebody complained, and the mayor decided that absolutely, positively, beyond a shadow of doubt, there would be no open carry on any public property by anybody. And actually, in our case, it was the state who came down, the governor's office who came down and said, okay, you cannot do that. That is against state law, and you can't supersede state law. You can say, which they ended up doing in the city of Sioux Falls, if you're a public employee, you cannot carry your weapon on public property.
While you're on duty.
While you're on duty. But the public most certainly can. And thankfully, even though our police and mayor's office may have had feelings the other way about it, and I can understand their concerns, it's still to make that kind of city charter movement was against state law, and the state did not uphold it, told them they had to change it. And in fact, it was quite a ceremonial, what do you call it when you end something you started? The mayor had to sit down and sign something that took away the thing that he had signed before, but I can't remember what you call it.
A proclamation of some sort.
Yeah, some sort like that.
Public retraction?
Yes, yeah. He made a very, and it was a very, televised and in the paper and whatever, very public retraction of that particular thing so that people knew that that was being retracted.
Well, and what I remember about that when he did it was one of his comments was, please be careful if you're going to be carrying guns. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah.
It is, of course.
Well,
go
ahead, Ron.
I think this says something larger than that. So, okay, somebody brings an awning, they put up a table, they have open carry literature, they're there in a suit and tie, they're open carrying, whether it's a rifle slung on their back or and I would say, of all your firearms, choose your barbecue gun.
Yeah,
that's an enormously different perception. If you're going to bring a gun to a park, it's better if you're a respected and recognized member of the daddy squad. Everybody knows you and accepts you before they see the firearm. Or else you're just simply whipping out your gun in public to show off.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that I don't know about other parts of the country, but Wisconsin's a good example, too, for up here. Because we have, Ron, you're in California, right? Because I'm just learning these things, yeah.
Yep.
So you have a really unique set of laws to deal with. And up here, where you have in the upper Midwest, you've got Nebraska, fairly, Wild West. Kansas, fairly Wild West. Iowa, farmers, but still kind of that Wild West mentality. And you have Minnesota, which is like the opposite of everything. Minnesota's like a mini California.
At least Madison.
Yeah. And so with our news and our press up here, we're getting on a daily basis, the exact opposite opposing views on a regular basis. And it does not take much on either the positive or the negative side to influence how people perceive a group. And I don't know if any of you guys caught there was also a Wisconsin police chief who spoke before the NRA.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Milwaukee.
From Milwaukee, yep. Wonderful example of what law enforcement should be putting out there.
Yep.
Yep. And like I mentioned last week, the gal, too, who teaches at the Law Enforcement Center here was getting the U.S. Constitution into the law enforcement's hands, and the Bill of Rights in the law enforcement's hands. Heck, you can go 15 minutes away from here into a county in Minnesota and talk to folks that have an entirely different opinion of the law. Same law. They just interpret it differently.
Yep.
So that first perception is, I don't know, you can't really get around it, because there's a lot of folks that once you set it into their mind and then you scare them with an AR-15 over your shoulder. It's going to take a lot of years to get that image out of their mind.
Not only are you, I guess my biggest gripe about this whole thing, Gary, and is not only are you doing yourself a disservice, you're making it hard for anybody to bring the subject up after you've behaved that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And you found that out personally in California with the unloaded open carry that just ended up banning all open carry.
Right. Yep.
Why don't we do this, folks? We're up past 15 minutes of the segment. Why don't we go ahead and step aside to break, and we'll hear from our good friends over at New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and then we'll continue the news after we come back right after this.
This part of the show is brought to you by the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. The NJ2AS has been working hard in New Jersey to fight for our constitutional rights and has been having some real successes. Between Operation Establish Compliance, Frank Fiamingo's work fighting bad gun laws in the legislature, and their new urban outreach program, positive things have been happening in New Jersey. Restrictive environmental laws started in California and spread across the nation. The New Jersey Second Amendment Society is fighting bad gun laws where they are at their worst so that they don't spread. They do need more help. They need you to become a member. A strong membership shows that they will have a strong voice and can deliver results. You don't need to be a New Jersey resident to join, so won't you please go to www.nj2as.com and become a member today. A one-year membership is only $35, and since there's no paid staff at NJ2AS, every penny goes to fight the fight in New Jersey. That's www.nj2as.com. Join the fight today.
Okay. I've got you guys back up. Gary, you were trying to get my attention. I'm sorry.
I was going to have a cigarette. Wait.
No. Okay.
Hey, Paul, thank you for letting me get that rant off my chest there.
Dude.
Thanks for putting it together. It was really well presented. Plus, it was just good material.
Yeah, it was a good rant.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hate to sound like a jerk, but do you guys think you can handle it where Gary and I step outside and pollute our lungs?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna mute our microphones in here, so that no background noise bleeds in, and I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Wow.
Okay.
Hey kids, Mom and Dad are gone.
Oh, now we play.
But not far.
Uh-oh. Still there.
Okay, Rachel,
looking
you're
to see
pulling
if
us
we have
back,
any
huh?
Q&A. Yeah, I don't see any Q&A. Do we have anything in YouTube that we know of?
Susan, are you
We
listening?
good? Paul probably would have said. I'm sure he gets the emails, so should be good. Are we ready to just go ahead and head back in for the news?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. All right, cool. Okay, coming in 5. Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast. We're continuing our news segment with this news item from New Hampshire. A New Hampshire lawmaker argued against legislation that would ban recipients of food stamps and welfare from using their electronic bank transfer cards to buy a gun or ammunition. Democrat State Representative Timothy Horrigan said, "The firearms ban is a blatant violation of the Second Amendment. Cash benefit recipients presumably have the same rights as the rest of us to purchase guns for hunting, sport shooting, or even self-defense. Obviously, they don't have much money to spend on that, but they do have the right under the Second Amendment to do so. He added that the ban against such purchases seemed ironic because many of the ban's supporters are supposedly pro-Second Amendment.
Do you guys get both sides of this argument? I kind of like it. On one side, there's somebody saying, you're on public assistance, why are you buying a gun? And then there's the libertarian point of view that says, public assistance means we give them money and they spend it on whatever they think is most important, not what you think is most important.
They could also use the gun to get food.
I hope you mean hunting.
Well, yeah. Well, I know there might be some fine young cannibals in New Hampshire, but I don't think there are many.
So the actual legislation says, proposed legislation says, any person who receives public assistance is prohibited from using an EBT card or cash obtained with one to gamble or to purchase tobacco products, alcoholic beverages, lottery tickets, firearms, or adult entertainment. So it's a lot of things kind of lumped together with firearms. So I guess this representative is distinguishing between what you have a right to and what you don't have a constitutional right to. Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's my biases are showing.
I'm not necessarily defending him, just following his logic.
There you go.
I have my own thoughts on the whole broader issue, but we won't go there right now.
Alan Corwin and his company Train Me Arizona won his First Amendment lawsuit against the city of Phoenix on Thursday. The Arizona Court of Appeals ruled that the Superior Court had erred in granting judgment for the city of Phoenix and its transportation system. Train Me Arizona had contracted to put up advertisements in bus shelters around Phoenix. These advertisements promoted firearms training in the wake of Arizona's constitutional carry legislation. The city took the advertisements down after they were put up by saying that, the advertisements, they failed to promote a commercial transaction between particular actors. The Court of Appeals found that Phoenix violated Corwin's First Amendment rights by how they applied their own revised advertising standards. I wonder if this means that Alan not only gets, because it's a First Amendment violation, I wonder if that means he not only gets court costs, but punitive damages as well.
I read the decision. They're sending it back to the Superior Court,
right,
with an order to find judgment in Alan's favor. The Superior Court should probably also award at least attorney's fees.
Yeah, I would guess they get attorney's fees. I'm hoping they get that. Then they can turn around and say, this was egregious and you should have known better. But we'll see what the law is.
Yeah.
Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. From the mainstream news media, at least. They would tell you the sky is falling in order to deliver a few eyes and ears to their advertisers. That appears to be what happened in Fort Worth, Texas. News sources claimed that employees at Fort Worth Jack in the Box hid in a freezer and called police after an open carry group came in to eat. That claim isn't true. But a patron of the restaurant did call into 911 apparently, and she and the police both panicked. The Fort Worth Police Department owes the public, the media, and Open Carry Texas an apology, or at least an explanation for their overreaction, and I believe an apology for what is apparently misstatement of facts and false information.
Are you following that up, Rachel?
I have been following it. There have been a lot of different posts on Facebook, a lot of misrepresentation in the news, false stories going around. I've seen a number of my friends' Facebook statuses of people who were actually there, part of the event. So there was definitely a falsehood going on. With
now
this.
I can understand, panic. Did you see what that person ordered? They're going to eat some of that? Oh, God, call the cops. Probably not the reaction that the actual 911 call.
No.
Yeah.
No, a little different.
Well, coming from Colorado, a Colorado city steals citizens' firearms. Sarah Warren was in an accident in late March. She was taken by ambulance to the Houday Valley Hospital, I hope I didn't massacre that, where her firearm was turned over to Fort Collins police. Now the police claim that they cannot return her weapon without a search through the NICS database and using an FFL transfer to return her firearm. Thank you, Michael Bloomberg. The Fort Collins police don't have an FFL on staff, Federal Firearms Licensee, so they claim that they can't return her gun. You know, I bet if the guns were being transferred to the police rather than from the police, they would find a way to use a private FFL and make the transfer. This is all, a lot of this is a result of the laws that were passed in the wake of the Newtown shootings pushed by Michael Bloomberg and Mayors Against Illegal Guns and all the money that they funneled into Colorado about transfers. So,
yeah. Do you have any doubt that if the police armor wanted to transfer a gun in and out to and from a repair facility out of state, like a warranty repair, that he would have any trouble doing a transfer through private hands?
No.
In a heartbeat. I think this mayor needs to be removed from office, and that the new police, after this one is fired by the new mayor, might see the light. In a personal note, I had somebody offered, after Bloomberg ran over Colorado, somebody said, "Hey, you should apply to this job we have. It's in Fort Collins." And I went, "I already live in California. Thanks anyway."
Yeah.
There's some good news for Missouri. On Wednesday, the Missouri Senate voted to put a bill to the voters. That bill defines the right to bear arms as unalienable, and it requires the state to defend against any infringement of that right. It would also include keeping ammunition and defending one's family with a firearm as guaranteed constitutional rights. The bill passed the Missouri House a while ago. Activists supporting the right of self-defense say the measure would force courts to use a higher standard of review when considering the constitutionality of any gun control bills raised in Missouri.
Now, I have to admit I'm not up on Missouri politics, even though I get there every once in a while. I don't know if the governor is pro or anti-gun. Does anybody know if this thing's got a chance of getting signed?
I think it goes to the voters. It's not in front of the governor.
I think that's what you said, that they passed it to put it out to the voters, to let the voters decide, right?
Yep.
I think so. You know, I know in Louisiana they passed a constitutional amendment a few years ago that said gun rights must be, the courts have to use strict scrutiny when they're looking at the constitutionality of any gun legislation. And this is pretty much sounds kind of what Missouri's doing.
Yep.
Yeah, and that has worked very well for Louisiana.
Yes.
So.
Well, good for Missouri. More news from Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Senate followed the House in overriding Governor Mary Fallon's veto of a pro-gun bill on federal gun regulations. The bill requires law enforcement authorities to certify within 15 days that an NFA firearm applicant is eligible to receive a firearm under federal regulations. The bill now becomes law without the governor's signature. The override is the first veto override since Fallon took office in 2011, and apparently there are some other political underpinnings going on in this particular case. There's a statement by Governor Fallon where she says, "Last Tuesday, I vetoed 15 bills in an attempt to refocus the attention of the legislature on important issues facing the state that have been left unaddressed." Personally, I think that's a very well, I'll say it. It's a very stupid reason for vetoing a bill. Then
Yeah.
she goes on to say, the legislation they passed today makes it easier to sell and transfer restricted firearms and accessories like silencers, which is fine. Now that they've accomplished that, she's asking them to move on and work with her on her legislation. So it was just a political maneuvering on her part to try to manipulate legislation that she wanted, and it didn't work. They didn't let it work.
Good.
Yeah.
And just to be absolutely certain that the listeners know, what they're talking about are the Class 3, the if you were to
NFA.
apply, the NFA. If you were to want a full auto, if you were to want a short-barreled shotgun, short-barreled rifle, or a silencer, now they have to work on you in a reasonable amount of time. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think 30 minutes is reasonable for me, but I suppose I could live with 2 weeks.
Yeah, but the federal ATF still takes somewhere between 9 and 10 months to approve your application.
It took our former we had a guy on the show with us quite a while back, Mick, and it took him 16 months from first application to when he actually took possession of his can in New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this next story is out of Washington, D.C. Gun rights attorney Alan Gura has filed a second writ of mandamus with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia in the case Palmer versus D.C. The plaintiffs in that case are challenging the district's total ban on carry, both open and or concealed, outside the home. The case has been going on since October 2009 and is now on its second judge. The first judge retired, and Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts appointed the next judge. It has now been 20 months since the parties argued the case in court, and there still isn't a decision. Judge Frederick Scullin promised a decision, quote, within a short period of time. A writ of mandamus is a legal writ asking that the district court be compelled to render a decision. Part of DC's argument against any sort of carry is, well, somebody could shoot at senators or congressmen or even Supreme Court justices or the president. Not that they don't all have bodyguards.
Or that they couldn't shoot against them now with an illegal gun? Oh, come on.
Yeah, go to Southeast DC. So,
Before we head off to the gun quote here, I want to just have we mentioned on the air, and I got to admit I have not heard the show you guys did Wednesday night yet. That's on my schedule to put together tonight. Did we mention the case in New Jersey that did not get
Drake?
Drake, yeah.
We did.
We already covered that. Okay. I just that whole thing just burned me. I would have felt sure that the Supreme Court would have taken steps to hear that one, but especially with the split between what's going on with Peruta, I would have thought for sure that Drake would have been heard, but apparently not.
See, this podcast is also therapy for the hosts when we want to rant and go, what were they thinking? Paul, you missed it. You could have joined. We were all tuned up. You would have sounded great.
Yeah, well, I was doing 65 miles an hour at the time you guys were recording. I did actually. I pulled up the feed. I pulled up politicsandguns.com/live. And by the way, if you are a podcast listener, you can listen to, at least you can watch the last show we did, and you can there's a chat room in there. But I pulled up that page and was able to watch the beginning of you guys start the show when my signal faded and the video froze. So
oops, you lost us.
Yeah. But from what I heard about the first 8 or 9 minutes of the show, and it sounded good to start with. So.
Well, good.
All right. Well, John, I think you got our gun quote tonight, man, right?
I do. And we're going to give a shout out to Jeff Halsey, who we got this gun quote off his Facebook feed. Quote unquote, "For the last damn time, assault weapon is a purely invented term designed by politicians to mislead the public into thinking consumers can buy machine guns at Walmart. They can't. In the political world, at least, assault weapon means nothing more than semi-automatic rifle that has a few cosmetic features that we do not like." And that comes from the National Review's Charles C.W. Cook, who, by the way, is British. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back after this.
In 1792, 1 year after the Bill of Rights, Congress passed a law prohibiting blacks from being militia members, thus denying them Second Amendment rights. The 14th Amendment was in part redress for disarming post-Civil War blacks. Throughout history, victim disarmament has always been along racial lines. Just ask yourself, if victim disarmament laws affect mostly minorities, isn't that racism? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, jpfo.org.
Awesome.
Very
Got
much
a couple comments on YouTube. Mr. Fat says, hello, Rob, love the speech. And also says, hello, Rob, Rachel, and John. I'm not feeling the love here, bud.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Man, that's rough.
Cold shoulder.
That must have been when you were out for a smoke.
Yeah,
Must have
probably
been.
so.
Yeah,
Probably so.
must have been.
Yeah.
We're gonna do our last break when we're gonna be doing. And by the way, I'm gonna be recording at noon Central Time tomorrow. I'm gonna be recording with Kathy Jackson for the next set of quick tips. And if anybody wants to join in, they're welcome to. I've already got the questions and everything all laid out, but that's going to happen tomorrow at noon. Yeah, on Mother's Day, but that's what she wanted. She says, if it's Mother's Day and I'm a mother, I get to do what I want, right? So
I will be having lunch with my mom.
yeah, very cool.
Good on you.
Yep.
So, but what I think we're going to do, he's got customers right now, or he would have done it, but when we go to break, I want to do a live break with Gary. And he's going to throw out a couple specials for the listeners. And
Here he comes.
Nice.
And we just got some more feedback on YouTube. Why don't we go ahead and do the? Well, Gary, do you think it's going to be a few minutes while you're with these people, right? I'm helped if I turn your mic back on.
Yeah, it'll be just a couple minutes.
All right. We've just got the one DGU then, is that right?
Looks like we got another one in here that somebody wrote up. I'm happy to read it unless somebody else wanted to.
Okay. I've got the first one, so do you want me to bring us back or have Rob bring us back?
Whoever wants to.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll bring us back.
Okay.
Hi, and welcome back. This is our DGU segment. John, you're first up, and it's from Detroit again.
I feel bad for Detroit that we're always reading DGUs from Detroit. However, this is a good one. Detroit resident Paris Ainsworth, who is a Michigan concealed carry permit holder, was arriving home from work when she was approached by two men in her own driveway. Before getting out of her car, she put her .45 pistol in her pocket. One of the thugs saw that she had a firearm and told her not to pull it. He then shot her in the side 3 times and once in her weak side hand. Paris proved that just because you've been shot, you are not out of the fight. She returned fire and wounded both her assailants. She then waited on a neighbor's porch for police and EMS to arrive and was holding her side to keep the blood, pressure on the wound. The assailants were arrested at the hospital, which happened to be the same hospital that she was brought to when they sought treatment. Paris praised Detroit police for the help that they gave that night, but she is convinced that law-abiding citizens need to protect themselves. He didn't shoot me because he felt like I was going to shoot him. He didn't care. He just shot. He didn't look like, oh my God, I shouldn't have. He just had the devil in him, she said. She is 51 years old. She has 4 grandsons and works in healthcare. She has 2 handguns, and she trains regularly.
Good on her.
I want her as my grandmother.
There you go.
I know
I'll
her family.
adopt her in a heartbeat.
I want to bring up one thing here, and this especially goes to people who do train regularly, and maybe a plea for people to train regularly. In that, that's this. This lady trains regularly. She was shot, and even though she was shot, she was able to fight back, and the training helped with that. So,
Amen.
Yep.
Just yesterday, I think somebody was asking me, well, this is kind of a newbie in sort of a different circumstance, but basically, why do you train under say a perfect scenario when it's not really going to be that way? And I said, you've got to start out there, get your technique really good, then you can move out to other, branch out to other types of moving and shooting training. But you've got to start with that type of training to get your technique down really good.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, when I go to the Mag 40, I know when I took the Kathy Jackson class last fall, and I'm sure when I go to the Mag 40 coming up next week, the basics, the draw stroke is going to be the first thing that is covered. You always go to basics to start with, and I'm sure I'll be shocked if they don't start with draw stroke when I go to.
Right.
They start off with the very, very basics when I go to Mag 40 next week.
Right. Not that you would ever, necessarily have the opportunity to have the perfect draw in the perfect position, but you train there so that it will be better than it otherwise would when you're in a less than perfect scenario.
I agree. I remember going to a training class with a group called Tiger Swan down in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it's run by people who had been the training officers, training command sergeant majors for Delta Force. They were in Delta Force, and they, along with the SEALs, nobody is probably better trained.
Right.
And what the guy said was like, all we do is we work on the basics and get them down as well as we can, because when the time comes, as long as we've got the basics and we can execute them well, all the rest will come along. It's like going back to the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've always found that it's getting the muscle memory in the first place. You practice this stuff so you don't even have to think about it when you're shooting. You just go. You take your gun, you shoot it, you cock it. You know how to operate it perfectly every single time. Practice your reloads, use snap caps, and then practice, and then you don't have to focus. Did I drop my magazine? Did I reload? Did I not reload? Is my slide lock back? You can just go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, the person who was asking me the question is a piano student of mine. And so my response is basically, well, okay, why do you practice just your right hand alone for one measure, slow, way under tempo first? Why don't you just jump in with the whole piece? It's because you have to put you have to separate it out into segments, break it down, practice each little bit, and then once each separate part is practiced, you can make the whole thing flow together well. Whether it's music or whether it's shooting, it's the same concept.
Very good.
Well, Rachel, I think you got the next DGU, right?
Sure do, yep. An elderly resident of rural St. Clair County, Missouri called police just after noon to report a burglary in progress. The intruder entered the home, and the homeowner fired one shot and fled to the other end of his home. The police arrived to find a body in the driveway, and no, it was not the homeowner's body. Police say the homeowner is a widower in his 70s, and evidence support the homeowner's story, and I say, hey, good use of ammo.
There you go.
Amen. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump off to break here. And then when we come back, we've got, first of all, when we go to break here, we've got a Kathy Jackson's quick tip. And then when we come back, we'll do listener email and close up the show. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this. I think it's all right, everybody. What we're going to do is we're just going to wait for just a minute for Gary to get back. I think he's walking back this way now, and then we'll do that. We'll do that live promo as the rejoin after the quick tips. So
I'm going to put that reminder that we have the links in our show notes.
Oops.
That is the rejoiner.
Yeah. Oops. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What'd you do?
I went to break without reading show notes closely, and Rob wanted a read of, hey, remember you can get our links off the show notes. So.
Well, I'm trying to use them as an introduction to new listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting new listeners hopefully all the time. So.
Well, you'll quit at what, 250,000 or 500,000? How many listeners do you want before you're going to say?
I thought you were talking about episodes, and I was going to say no. I'm going to shut the show down at about I'd say show number 8,000 or 9,000. Episode 8,000 or 9,000. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it quits then. Matt, if you do join in again, when you do join in, you got to almost touch the microphone for it to pick up.
Get close and personal. Have one of those relationship type things with the microphone.
And remember, when you're having that relationship, we've got a camera on you.
That's right.
And you're going out live on YouTube.
Several cameras.
All
no
right.
pressure or anything.
Exactly.
So who's going to pull? Let's assign these before Gary starts.
I want to read the email from Jake.
From Jake?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have Paul take us in.
Why can't I see the email?
And then I want to do the one about SoCal. Wasn't there another one? Oh no, we did it that was last week. Name withheld by request, right?
Yeah, this is very similar to that, right?
Yes. Well, this I suspect they actually know each other. Yeah.
All right, gotcha.
Different guy.
Yep.
Harpstergary@gmail.com, right, Gary?
Yes. Yeah, I can see all the video, but I can't see any of the email. Unless there's something I'm supposed to push.
Okay, now I'm gonna have you do on your laptop what I'm doing over here.
Okay.
See that little triangle right there?
Yeah.
Click that.
Opening Google Drive.
And actually, I'm gonna go over and get on his laptop. I'll be right back, guys.
Hey, John, I was gonna ask you about Guns and Money. Do you want me to tee you up or not?
No, because I really haven't done anything
I clicked that thing.
the last couple of days.
Okay, I'll strip that out. Be that way.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you did, but it works.
Yeah.
We're already through most of the show.
That brought something to mind. What was it?
You're going to talk about the VA?
Yeah.
Is that in there?
Yeah. Right in here. So yeah, that's
Okay.
we're gonna let me bring that up to that.
Oh, we've got a comment over here in the questions. Hello from Romania.
Whoa.
Cool.
So hello back from Texas.
Where in Romania?
Doesn't say.
Hey guys, real quick. I forgot as we got into the show. When we come back, we're going to do the Gary's ABN promo,
Right.
and Gary wants. We're going to talk a little bit about that that whole thing with the VA down in Arizona.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I'll go into email, and we'll do all this as one. We'll do that, and then we'll get into email for show close. So, I'll go ahead and bring us in, and
Can
we'll
you
do
see the show notes, Paul?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so ABN, and then where was that?
Arizona.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Okay.
I'm going to get a glass of wine. See you in a minute.
Hey, several.
I'll bring enough to share. Don't worry.
Well,
There you go. So are we waiting for Rob? Well, I suppose we could do the promo without Rob. Of course, he's going to make a whole lot of noise when his headset gets back on.
Yeah, that's true.
You do realize, right? That's only 7:41.
What's that?
You do realize it's only 7:41.
No. You know, I'm wondering. We're getting feedback. You know, like you guys were talking about as I come back on headset in Romania. We have a regular listener in Russia. We're getting Romania. We're getting out all over the world.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Very, very cool.
Oh.
Did I miss what Rachel said about the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association
That
of
does-
Wyoming gun owners?
That doesn't come in. That hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
That's our regular. We do that every episode. That's part of our. We have a regular bit of stuff that we read each time, and we try to promote local gun groups. The only thing is we make them email us. I mean, they've got to have show interaction for us to promote them. At least have one of their members say, "Hey, I've got a gun group. Would you mind reading them?" You know, if they'll do that, then yeah, we read them every week or every episode.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So, are we ready to go into the ABN promo then? Hearing no objections, I'm going to think that's a yes. Is that good wine, Rob?
Did you bring me any?
Yeah, you said you're going
Yeah.
to bring us enough to share.
Give me your glass. I'll fill it. Sonoma County Cabernet Sauvignon 2011.
Ooh, is it good and dry?
Send it on over.
I like them full, so
Oh, okay.
it's not sweet. It's not dry.
It's not sweet, though.
This Diet Dew is for you.
I had a local Illinois Cabernet when I was in Chicago this weekend. I'm not
How was
accustomed to- Yeah, I'm not accustomed to Cabernet being sweet. I don't like it
Oh,
sweet.
wow.
It was fancy
either.
little Italian restaurant, very, very good food. You know, just a local one operation kind of mom and pop place.
Uh-huh.
And the food was outstanding, but their wine selection left a lot to be desired.
I was in Canada a couple years ago, and I thought, you know, somebody bought a bottle of French wine, somebody bought a New York wine, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is so lopsided. I was stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
occasionally you'll get just a great bottle out of New York and maybe Illinois. I haven't heard of their wines yet.
Yeah, well, you know, we have
This-
wines here in South Dakota too, but trust me, you don't want to actually buy a bottle. Hey, if somebody gives it to you, you know, be polite, open it up, pour it, take a couple sips, tell them thank you very much, and then wait till they leave.
It's good for sangria or something like that.
Oh, maybe good for cooking, but I mean, South Dakota, for God's sake, wheat and buffalo. How in the hell did they come up with vineyards?
You know what, though?
Crickets.
Some of the best wine I ever had, and it's going to sound weird, but some of the best wine I've ever had in my life is rhubarb wine. And, well, I remember it tasted good the first few sips, and I don't remember much after that.
You're taken back to your roots. You were probably too young to legally drink at the time you were drinking rhubarb wine, too.
Boy, it's a nice day outside today, isn't it?
Wait, Paul, is that some of the reenacting, or what do you call it?
Live action role playing.
Is that what they call it? Role playing?
Yeah.
Live role playing? Okay.
Yeah, the Renfest stuff. Yeah, that's live action role playing. Or as they give Owen a whole bunch of crap about all the time. It's called LARPing. Anyway, Let's go ahead and knock this promo out, and coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. Well, we're going to go ahead and do a little thing. We're doing called a live promo. We're at ABN Army Surplus. Of course, Gary is providing bandwidth for the show, and Gary, we when we're recording here, we're not going to be running the live promo, the recorded promos. We're going to do live promos, and so we were talking a little bit off air earlier tonight, and you had some specials you were thinking about running for our listeners, right?
I think so. We're normally doing our SurePack MREs, 12 to a box.
Okay.
And we normally sell them at 60. So we've got a few of them left. They are actually dated August of last year. As anybody who has MREs knows, they last for years and years and years and years beyond their date. But we're going to sell them for $40 a box plus free shipping, assuming we're shipping to the continental United States, so we can be in that $10 or $12 range. So $40 a box instead. Normally we had them at 65 or 75, which is our normal price, which is still like $12 below Amazon.
Right.
And then they were on sale for 60, and for your listeners only, which means they got to either call or email it so it gets to me.
Right.
40 a box, and we will ship it wherever they need to for free till they're gone.
Inside the continental United States.
Inside the continental United States, yeah.
Wow. That's a great price. Now, we're talking about 12 meals.
12 meals, yep. In fact, these boxes have got, the side dishes, the rice, the crackers, the bread, the spread, the desserts. So, yep, and we've all had them. They're actually pretty good. Now, these are the civilian version of the MRE, what the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA uses.
Okay.
So they're not in a brown bag, they're in the clear bag.
Okay.
And, normally a military box of MREs would be up in that $100, $120 range. And actually the only difference between the military MRE and the civilian MRE, because they're both manufactured by the same company, packaged by the same company, the works,
right,
is that the condiment case inside of the military MRE is substantially larger, because they'll throw in, lots of salt and pepper and ketchup and mayo and, Tabasco sauce, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the civilian MRE doesn't have that same condiment package in it. So it's really the only difference.
So, and this is now this is going to be just until you run out of these, right?
Right.
And you don't have a ton of them.
I do not have a ton of them. I think I've got about 15 or 20 cases left, and that's about it. Then the next order of cases we make, they'll go up to $85 a case. But yeah, so that's just for the remaining group I have on that last purchase. About 15 or 20 of them. When they're gone, they're gone. $40, and we'll throw in free shipping.
Wow. And these things aren't light, so.
No. It's not. We're not going to be making any money on it, but sometimes it's nice just to get the space clear and get them out to the preppers who want a little extra something and they can save a few bucks. They'll appreciate it.
Very, very cool. Anything else we should know about?
We'll do the same thing with military sleeping bags. Most people are familiar with the 4-piece sleeping system.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with a Gore-Tex shell and the summer bag and the fall bag. You put them all together. Of course, you get your winter sleeping system. Well, we've got the fall bags, the main portion of the system, where we were able to make a special purchase on those. And the system itself usually sells from that $200 to $300 range, depending upon where you go on the internet. But we got the bags that we were selling at $80,
mm-hmm.
just the bag. The main component of the system, and we are going to drop that price down to $60 plus free shipping, and again, just until our supply is gone. And I've got about 15 or 20 of those left from that purchase as well. And then when those are gone and the new shipment comes in, of course, it's got to go back up to the new price. But so we've got a sleeping bag special and an MRE special. The sleeping bag is black. It's military issue. They're all in excellent condition, and we can ship them out to you. And we'll do those for $60, including shipping. But again, they got to get to me, so that's Gary@abnarmysurplus.com. That's my email address.
Mm-hmm.
Or call the store and ask for me and get me a message so that I know they listened to this show, and then I'll get the information from them and we'll ship them out.
What's the phone number for the store?
The phone number for the store is 605 area code 357-8855. Whew, I was sure I was going to screw that up. 605-357-8855. And my email direct to me is gary@abnarmysurplus.com.
Very cool. Well, I want to remind you, I was supposed to do this as we were closing up the last segment, but I screwed up. I want to remind everybody we do have links to each of our news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com if you'd like to share them with a friend. So let's go ahead and get into the email section tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and take the first one. We got this email in. Actually, I asked the guys to save this because it came in before the Wednesday show, but I really wanted to comment it on myself. So let me go ahead and read the first one. This came from Jake. He writes, I feel the need to write into your show after I heard your episode where being open to your friends and family about your gun interest was compared to coming out as gay or lesbian. I'm an absolute gun nut. I carry, whenever I can, shoot IDPA, and I'm working on turning hand loads to my .308 rifle. I spend far too much of my limited funds on guns, ammo, and shooting accessories. I call my Congress critters every time a 2A bill comes up, and I generally vote pro-gun. I'm also a bisexual dating another man. It's been said that coming out as gay or lesbian is the most powerful act of political activism you can make. My own grandpa was pretty anti-gay when I was growing up. He wasn't hateful or aggressive about it, but he was always disapproving whenever there was a flamboyant gay man on TV or LGBT issues came up in conversation. We have always been close, since he first put a .22 in my hands and taught me to shoot and told me stories about his many years in law enforcement. Because of this, I was very nervous when I came out to him last year, since I didn't want to lose our relationship. Thankfully, after a brief period of awkwardness, we're as close as we always were. I think what helped change his mind was that he knew me. He had literally watched me grow up, loved me and taught me, and knew I was a good person at heart. He couldn't reconcile the grandson he knew with what he thought of gays. Eventually, his views of gays had to change. While coming out as a gun guy shouldn't be nearly as hard as coming out as gay, not many young teens are homeless because they're a gun owner, for example. I think it can be just as effective a tool at changing people's minds. The more good, decent, and kind people they know who carry guns and support the Second Amendment, the less they believe the anti-gunners painting 2A supporters as hateful, violent racists, or that the gun lobby is a vast, monolithic conspiracy of evil corporations bent on profit. After all, they know the gun lobby. They're the nice folks down the street who invited them to a barbecue last week, or that guy at the office who helped them with that project last week. As a parting note, I'm glad to see you guys don't seem to be anti-gay. I'd love to see the gay community calling Democratic legislators they elected and demanding gun rights. I'm sure that would make Bloomberg's head spin. Thanks, Jake. And I'm going to withhold Jake's name from the Jake's last name. Just out of he gave it to us. He didn't object. He didn't say please don't use my last name, but I'm not going to anyway. And I'm not going to use the state or city where he's from just because there are still people that hate out there. So, Jake, I want to thank you for writing that email. That totally inspired me, and I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story here. It's going to take just a minute, so if you'd all forgive me for just a second here. I myself am a heterosexual, obviously, happily married, been so for quite a while. And but I have met with the kind of courage that he's talking about on a personal level. About a month and a half ago, my daughter, we have Susan, my wife, and I. We have two boys that we have together. She has a daughter that I consider my daughter, that I call my daughter, that is actually my stepdaughter, but I'm the only dad she's ever known. And I have a daughter that wasn't born to Susan. I had a relationship before Susan when I was a very, very, very young teenager. And that produced a daughter. And that daughter, about almost a month ago, came out publicly that she is bisexual. And that took a ton of courage. That took... I have not always been... right now, honestly, publicly, if you come up to me and say, hey, I'm gay, I'm going to say, hey, so what? I don't care. As long as you're not a male hitting on me, yeah, that doesn't really matter to me. And if you are a male and you hit on me, you're going to get the same thing as a female that hits on me, man. I'm happily married. Thanks for the compliment, but no thanks. And just the amount of courage. I mean, for each of us that are gun owners, compare what Jake went through with his grandpa, what my daughter went through with me and the rest of her family. Compare the courage of coming out and saying I'm a gun owner to somebody saying I'm gay or I'm bisexual. What we're asking of gun owners is trivial, really. So that's what I got on that email.
Paul?
Thanks to Jake.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gary. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you, Jake, for sending in your letter.
Yeah. I met Chris Chang at the NRA convention.
Okay.
He's a professional shooter. He used to work high tech in the Bay Area. He was in the movie Assaulted. He came out and he goes, in the South Bay, it was harder to come out as a gun owner than as a homosexual. And maybe maybe what he just did is outed the Bay Area.
Didn't he win Top Shot season?
He's also on Top Shot, yeah.
And he won it.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah?
I think he did, like season 4 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to bring up in relation to this, and Jake and I have exchanged a few emails back and forth since he wrote me this, and I would encourage anybody listening that is of an alternative lifestyle, and it doesn't matter, gay, lesbian, bisexual, trisexual, quadrisexual, if there is such a thing. Whatever your orientation, if you are not heterosexual, it is more important now there is nobody that has more rights or less rights, but I believe in my heart it's more important for you to carry and to be armed all the time than it is for the average Joe. Why is that? Because gays are violently targeted. Young gay males. There was a case here in South Dakota. The two men that perpetrated the case were put to death. About, Gary, what do you think? A year and a half ago, has that been?
About that.
Yeah. The two guys on a drinking binge one night found a gay man, thought it'd be good to beat the tar out of him. They beat him up. They tied him up. They chained him behind their pickup truck and drug him on a gravel road for I don't remember the exact distance, but he was still apparently kind of alive almost. He was not clinically dead, and so they just left him tied up and tossed him off a bridge into a stream, only because he was gay. And I wish I could say that South Dakota case is the only case I can think of, but it's not. There are a lot of cases where people are attacked and at the very least beaten only because they're gay. And so if you are of an alternative lifestyle, I cannot say strongly enough, please get armed and get training so you know what to do with that arms.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we beat that one kind of to death. No pun intended there.
That's a bad segue.
That really was a bad segue.
I'm sorry about
Seriously.
that. That was
Okay, we'll try and fix it. Here's email number 2 from Kevin. Email number 2 from Kevin. Kevin says, "Hey there, great podcast. I listen every week. Just an update for you on the CCWs being issued here in the OC. Now, to the rest of the country, that's Orange County, California. My initial interview date was scheduled for next February. I was one of the early ones to apply. But with their hiring of retired deputies to process the backlog, I've had my interview already, been fingerprinted, got my training, and I should have my permit in the next couple of weeks. I gotta say, they've really stepped it up. Well, at least by California standards. Anyway, thanks for all you do and keep it up. Kevin in Anaheim." I'll tease Kevin just a little bit. If he says he listens every week, Kevin, we come out twice a week. But thank you for the email.
You know, though, that brings up a little bit, and I'm going to air this publicly, so, you know.
Yeah, what?
If I offend whoever happens to do most of the writing of the show notes and is, other than me, the most senior person on the show, I'm sorry. But quite often I see in our show notes something like weekly or something like that, so that may be where they get that.
My bad.
All right. Well, we should mention the Polite Society download app. Oh, wait, stop. Well, I'll finish that, but the Polite Society download app is out on Amazon for Android, and the iPhone app is in iTunes. They are located by our old name, Politics and Guns, and hot links are in our show notes. Now, before we go on and we get into the rest of the close of the show, where I'm sure a lot of our regular listeners start to tune us out, I want to stop people from doing that because we've got one more thing that probably should have gone into the news segment. And Gary and I were talking last week when we wrapped up the show, and Gary, by the way, announcement, and this is kind of dropping the bomb on everybody that is staff on the show as well. Nobody's heard this one yet. Gary's going to, every time I'm live from ABN, Gary's going to go ahead and join us.
Great.
So
only if it's okay with the rest of the give them.
Very nice. Absolutely.
Come on in.
Vote in private.
Okay.
They can't do that. They have to do it up front. I mean, I'm not an attractive guy to have to look at every week, so some of those guys may just go, no.
Okay.
So.
But anyway, so we were talking last week as we wrapped up, as I was packing stuff up into the pickup truck. But one of the things Gary is very strong on is veterans issues, and he's one of the things that has been in the news a lot lately is this past. It's been about 2 weeks ago. Came up a story out of Arizona about a VA system run amok down there. Gary, can you just fill us in on a little bit about what's been going on with that?
Well, in Phoenix, Arizona's VA, and hopefully your listeners have heard this from multiple news sources, but the essence of it is that it was discovered that up to about 40 U.S. veterans died at the Phoenix VA waiting for services. They literally were put on a waiting list, and in the process of waiting to get taken care of, they passed away. In some time, 6 months or a year's worth of time, several of these instances happened enough to add up to 40.
Right.
Well, the thing that made it, maybe jump even to a bigger news story was then the local Phoenix VA tried to cover it up. They tried to be able to tell people, have two waiting lists so that they could kind of show the numbers that these folks really weren't waiting as long as they had been. And finally, one of the emergency room doctors did a whistleblower and came forward with proof and with evidence that showed the dereliction of duty by the senior management of the Phoenix VA. That's the story.
Now, what I remember of this is what they were doing is they were getting requests for appointments, and they were going into the system and creating an appointment, but not entering it, taking a screenshot of that appointment, and then deleting the appointment and going back in and re-entering the request for the appointment when it came to about 2 weeks before that appointment time. What they were trying to do is to get a bonus for getting quick appointment times.
Right.
And they did that. They got their bonus for having quick appointment times. Meanwhile, veterans were dying because they weren't getting the care they were needing. Is that am I clear on
Yep.
that?
In the essence, yeah, that's pretty much correct. Yep. And I think that it's the cover-up where it's gotten to at this point now, because that's the simplified version of it. For the most part, I think, almost everybody, normal citizen would say it's a terrible thing.
Right.
And it's an awful thing. And you hate to see that happen to veterans, and you hate to hear about any hospital, whether or not it's a veterans hospital or not, doing those kind of shenanigans. The story has kind of morphed a little bit now to looking at the entire veterans hospital program and saying, oh, we got to do something. And that's been the big news item for the last 3 or 4 days now since we talked last week.
Mm-hmm.
They want to fire Shazinski and
Shazinski, that's
the veterans. He's the chief of the Veterans Affairs.
He's in Washington. He's not
Washington,
Phoenix.
DC. Correct. He's in Washington. And in many respects, that argument is kind of, fire the coach because the linebacker didn't do his job. But this is a decorated man, was a chief of staff of the U.S. Army, 4-star general, highest ranking ever Japanese American, executive credentials all the way up and down his sleeve. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. And overall, the veterans who have been within the VA hospital system over the last 4 or 5 years that he's been in charge of, I think he took over around 2009, the response to how well the hospital system is doing has steadily been increasing because he's a pretty good taskmaster. But there are some things you just can't know. So my disappointment in the news over this last week is that it has switched from what really happened and how can we fix it to let's blame the big guy, the buck stops here, let's fire this 4-star general from his position. Obviously he didn't know what he was doing. And so many of the news stations have come up, and that's the story, including even Fox News, ranting and raving on the fact that absolutely, positively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the very first thing we got to do is we got to fire this 4-star general. Instead of saying, okay, now that we know about the issue, let's let this 4-star general who has been very good at his job go down to Phoenix, Arizona, and kick some ass.
Yeah.
Take some names and clean that cesspool out. But yeah, the sad thing is that 40 people had to die before it became public knowledge.
Wow. And yet the media is doing that. We need to fire this 4-star general. And yet when things come to light, like Fast and Furious, then nobody is going to say, nobody said when that came to light, let's go fire Eric Holder, who is the person at the highest level that would have been responsible for it.
That is correct. Yeah, and there was a clear case of where he was involved in it and was somewhat responsible for those decisions that were made, and he was aware of those decisions that were made. Obviously, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs was not even in the slightest bit aware of that. But he has since then now called for a face-to-face audit of all of the VA hospital timing systems. So there are going to be people in every VA hospital from Sioux Falls to San Diego to try and make sure that this kind of situation doesn't happen again. And I wanted to bring it up not just because I know a lot of the podcast listeners are veterans,
right,
but to make sure that all of the listeners to the podcast remember that when it comes to the Second Amendment rights, these are the guys defending it for us. These are the guys we need to take care of. And so they should be at least aware and follow the story. And if it comes to a point sometime in the future where, a letter to your congressman or your senator is going to make a difference, or it's something that we should do, I'll bring it back to the table and see what you guys think.
Very cool. One of the main arguments when Obamacare was going to be coming through was, and one of the things I say, the people on the extreme left that want a centralized, they want a one-payer system. They want the government. They want the government in charge of healthcare, totally, and free healthcare for everybody. Well, there are 2 places where that is currently the case. And number one is Indian Health. And I don't know, I personally, when I was going through EMT training, I personally got involved with the Indian Health Service and know what a travesty that is. Number two is the VA.
Yep, correct.
And I don't have to go through the VA myself. My wife has. My wife is a veteran. I am not. But I'm not at all impressed with what the VA does. The wait times are outrageous.
Well, the wait times can be long, but being somebody who uses a veterans hospital, I have to tell you that I have never been seriously frustrated. My doctor over at the local VA hospital here is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
The emergency staff, nursing room staff, all that kind of stuff that I've run into over the years has just absolutely been outstanding. I haven't really ever run across anybody who has had much of a complaint at all about the service that they've gotten at our local VA hospital. It's very well thought of among the veterans community. I think that the wait times can be a bit frustrating, but even at that, in comparison, you take back 10 years ago, 10 years ago, if you had an appointment for 8 o'clock in the morning, you got there at 7:55, and it might be 11:55, and you hadn't even talked to anybody yet.
Wow.
Nowadays, for the last 4 or 5 years, I would say any time I had an appointment with my doc, if I was there 15 minutes early, I saw him by at least 15 minutes afterwards. It is a little frustrating for the medications and that type of thing, and I think that most people will understand this the more, unfortunately, that Obamacare comes into the system, is understanding that when you put a massive amount of people into a funnel, at some point it gets clogged at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And like anything else, it takes money to operate a system. And for as many things as the federal government wastes money on, I would have liked to have seen them give more money to the VA. But I don't know that, being a small government guy, it's a tossed argument up for me. Because the Veterans Administration is like either the second or the third most expensive unit within the federal government already. So it's, there's a lot of money that goes into that program. But overall, I think the vets are treated fairly decently, and I say that as in comparison to any other hospital other than Rochester Mayo Clinic or something like that. I don't know anybody here locally that's disappointed or upset with the local service they get from our local VA. But
anybody else have any comments on that?
Well, I know my dad was a vet. He served 28 years in the Army. He was a World War II and Vietnam Vietnam vet, not Korea though. And he was treated at multiple VA hospitals after he retired, and at least the last one he was at, Togus in Augusta, Maine, was always good. I mean, he got good treatment.
yeah, I think for the most part, it's as comparable as any other major medical center would be. Probably the only major difference is, that when you really need somebody super specialized, but then the VA will farm you out to wherever that super specialist is.
Well, I know a lot of nurses at our local VA hospital here, and it was kind of like they were some of the most experienced, best trained nurses at one of the other hospitals in town that got made a better offer.
Yeah. All in all, I hope they get to the bottom of it, find out people responsible in Arizona, and get those people just flat-ass thrown out of the system, if not jailed. Because if somebody deliberately did that and somebody died, then they are at least, at least an accessory after the fact.
Well, I would say the administrator for that particular Phoenix area facility should probably be jailed, because that is where that came from, is that particular administrator, at least from the news stories I've been able to pick up on.
Yep, I have to agree with you. Well, thanks. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention so we could follow it.
You bet. Well, Rachel, I think you're up next, right?
Yes, I believe I am. I would like to remind our listeners we are experimenting with the show all the time. So please send us an email to tell us what you like or dislike. You can contact the show by email Send your emails to onair@politicsandguns.com to hear your email read on the air. If you would like to email any of the hosts directly, just email their first name and then add @politicsandguns.com. Call 605-215-1438 to hear your voice on the air.
That's 605-215-1438. And I don't think John's received any listener email yet.
Actually,
Still?
I did.
Oh,
did?
cool.
You did.
There's some guy who was inviting me to do an Appleseed shoot.
Huh.
Take
Well,
some
good
sort
for
of
him.
Appleseed test. Yep.
Good.
Very cool.
Road Gunners Mag 40 class in Conway, Arkansas at Shoot House, USA is scheduled for May 15th through the 18th. You can register from our show notes.
By the way, that is the last time you'll hear that, because by the time the next show comes around, there's going to be it's going to be starting. So, but I would like to mention, of course, and it has for a long time, one shooting position opened up. It got snapped up right away, and there is still, I believe, if you want in on the Mag 20 classroom that is taught by Masad Ayub, the master himself, there are, I think, 2 slots open that you could get into.
Take it. Go
yeah.
take the course.
Absolutely. Also, please check out Kathy Jackson's Quarter Cat training classes. Her next class is the weekend of May 17th in Philadelphia, which also this will probably be the last time. No, well, we got one more we can hear that on. But that's coming up to next weekend. So go to quartercat.com for more classes and details. Also, please remember that Kathy will be bringing the Quarter Cat class to Sioux Falls the 15th and 16th of August. Registration should be open soon. I was talking to Caleb, who's the host this year, and he was saying that registration should be open in the next week or so. And as soon as we get the details on that, we'll get them out to you. I will be there to help out. Susan, my wife, will be taking the class. That is going to be a co-ed class, so I would strongly encourage anybody that can take that class to take that class. Great information that she gives out in her classes. So next up we have Rob. Do you got any posts from your Slowfax blog you want to talk about, man?
I do. This is the one I teased last time. We've seen a rising movement, and I call it the I will not comply movement. You see it all up and down the East Coast, states in Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. They're saying, you've made the laws so crazy, it is safer for me not to comply. Think of it. Gun owners are a bunch of Boy Scouts. We obey the rules. We put extra rules on ourselves to keep ourselves and our family safe. And these Boy Scouts are saying the laws are so onerous, they actually endanger my family if I comply. That's a culture change. Besides, I got a chance to make fun of DC. It was on the Clash Daily, and now it's on my blog, Slow Facts.
Wonderful.
Rachel, I think you're next up.
Yep.
My bad. Also, please check out The Shooters Club by Bob Main and Ben Branham. For $75 a year or $6.25 a month, you get 24/7 access to some fantastic training and audio podcasts that you can't get anywhere else. Don't forget, Bob is giving away his M&P Shield to one lucky member, and I believe he also has other cool prizes for other members. So check out The Shooters Club.
Please listen to the other podcasts on the Crusader Podcast Network. And here's a shout out to Slamfire Radio, but with a reminder that the Polite Society podcast has more Facebook likes than they do. Hey?
Before we take off and go to the next little read off here, I want to ask our live audience member here, Matt, what are some podcasts other than us? Obviously, you do listen to us. You're coming in to join us on the show tonight, but what are some other podcasts you listen to?
Oh, I have a lot of them. Number one would be probably Gun for Hire, Talking Lead, This Week in Guns, So it's a little bit of everything. It's partly politics, but a lot of it is trying to learn the science behind the guns, get the accuracy, understand how all these different forms of thinking came together. Because I'm still a new gun guy. I didn't really know anything, and I didn't start learning until a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. One that I don't know if you listen to, but you probably should if you're a new gun guy. And they don't come out very often, but they have got a ton of great content, and that's the Pro Arms podcast. Masad Ayub and Gail Pepin do that one, and that is for new gun people. That's an amazing podcast. So, Rob, I trampled on you here. I'm going to let you go now.
That's okay, Paul. I'm going to remind our listeners to join the National Rifle Association, the Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, and Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Joining 2 organizations makes you a hero. My gosh, supporting all 4? Becoming life members? You are my superhero.
Amen. Also, join your local groups like New Jersey Second Amendment Society, Arizona Citizens Defense League, Gun Owners of California, Connecticut Citizens Defense League, Florida Carry, Georgia Gun Owners, Grassroots North Carolina, Illinois Carry, Michigan Gun Owners, and Michigan Open Carry.
And don't forget Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners, Minnesota Gun Owners Civil Rights Alliance, Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, Citizens for a Safer New Jersey, Open Carry Texas, Texas Firearms Freedom, Texas State Rifle Association, Tennessee Firearms Association, West Virginia Citizens Defense League, and Wyoming Gun Owners.
And for our Canadian listeners and their supporters, join the Canadian Shooting Sports Association and the Canadian National Firearms Association.
Okay?
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. Until the midweek show, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
This show, copyright 2014, Paul Lathrop and Polite Society Podcast.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
In fact, damn few are. Good show.
Or they've got better use of their time. Hey, Paul, does that mixer make it a lot easier for you to edit it so you don't have to cut and splice and paste?
Oh, yeah. Once I get the hang of this, we will. What I would like to eventually do is get to the point where we don't talk like we did tonight. Yeah, we start and we wrap. That's what I would like to eventually do.
Ideally.
Hang on just one second. I'm going to go ahead and before I want to thank the YouTube viewers and remind everybody you can join us live every Wednesday night at 7:30 Central Time, every Saturday night at 6:30 Central Time, and thank you for watching. We do appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and take us off air, folks. Give me just a second.